Do you remember when you were told that the grass is always greener on the other side, that life and water only flow over there? Society has strategically placed definitions of destruction on where and how we're living, from booming business districts to seizing our land, from vibrant communities to now violence and poverty-stricken, and sadly, it's all a part of the system. We won't yield until this story is told. 37208, the nation's highest incarceration rate, right here in this zip code.
Right now, a Nashville neighborhood is getting national attention. It is not the good kind to have the highest incarceration rate in the entire
North
country.
Nashville neighborhood is said to have the highest incarceration rate in the entire country. So what can be done about it?
The Brookings Institute came out with a study that ranked all the cities. And I think it was extremely surprising when people saw that Nashville, Tennessee had the highest incarceration rate in the country. It really quantified the harm that the system was doing to its own citizens.
That was super crazy to hear. It really made me concerned on how people would further stereotype and think about the residents in our zip code.
This country is known for the intentional destruction of Black lives. From the lynchings to eminent domain, seizing of the property, you know, all of these things, to then the war on drugs, where the incarceration rate just spiked.
Wherever there's things like high concentrations of violence or incarceration, we know that the things that people are getting locked up for are usually directly associated with a community need.
Sharon Hurt was a long-term councilwoman in North Nashville. She kept reiterating, it's by design. All of this inequality is by design, and it's how people are kept in their place.
Whatever we do, we don't have time to wait for these children to grow up. Whatever we do, it needs to be now, because our children won't be able to read and they'll be dead or incarcerated. So the community is already on fire, and it's been hit by a tornado and COVID.
My mom had one rule though, when I would walk to school. The rule was, do not cut through the projects. Do not cut through the projects. And so I used to get in trouble all the time because I did it anyway, because all my friends would live there. So it's just like, I done bled on these streets, I done got in trouble, spanked, all that shit on these streets.
You know, one of the unique things about growing up Black in Nashville is that our communities have been overshadowed by country music, USA, and more of the tourist attraction. You know, there's so much history, you know, in the African-American community here.
Everything that the city is known for is born out of 37208.
This street, Jefferson Street, at one time was the mecca of our Black community. Just to walk down Jefferson Street and hear the music coming out of the buildings, the restaurants, the clubs.
Jimi Hendrix, Billie Holiday, very famous Black artists performed or even got their start on Jefferson Street.
It wasn't another street in this city that we could actually call our street a main thoroughfare. It was over 600 homes and businesses on Jefferson Street, and now it may be 100.
In the mid-50s, the state decided to run an interstate through North Nashville. It broke up Jefferson Street. They used eminent domain to take people's houses. Because of the construction, businesses were blocked off.
The construction of the interstate was a poison
that continue to affect that community in low doses even after that initial hit. And you're seeing the residue of that today.
It appears that it was very intentional that these businesses would close and Black people would be basically forced out of the community or forced really into poverty, whereas it was a very vibrant and economically stable community.
I think the experience has to be strange for our young people now. Because when I was growing up, it was like, we were impoverished, you know, and that forced us to be more communal, right? I knew my next door neighbors, I knew the folks across from me because of our economic situation, and we was able to pull each other up because we were so communal. Like, I couldn't imagine growing up on Clay Street and right across the street seeing like not a mansion, but a house that's definitely bigger than mine, and thinking to myself, can those people relate?
Gentrification is when people from the outside who have more money than us in North Nashville, they come in and they buy houses, they tear them down, they build these bigger houses, and then the tax rates go up, and people in North Nashville whose homes are paid for because they can't afford the tax hike, they end up losing their homes. And it's really stressful to the children. It leaves them very unstable because they just never know when it will be their turn, when they will have to go, when their landlord will decide to sell the home from under them. But now also, whereas they are living in their communities and their homes, these gentrifiers feel entitled, and they begin to call the police on children, on Black children, for just living and existing and walking down their own streets.
When you physically dead in the community, you inject high poverty, and then you don't give them resources, what else is there to do? They robbing, they stealing, and they simply taking shit to get their basic needs met.
Lamar, in the 3rd grade, he was just always getting in trouble, just stayed in trouble. And one day he had gotten in some kind of trouble. He came to the room, and I'm just like, Lamar, what is going on? He was like, Miss Fatuga, I will not live to see 18. Look at my community. Look at the conditions of my life. I'm not going to be here, so why should I keep fighting so hard when there's so much that's fighting against me? 5th grade, I lost contact with them and finally ran into him again when he was a little bit older. He's like, Miss Fatuga, I've had a lot of ups and downs, and I've been in and out of juvenile. He's like, but I think I'm turning my life around. I'm gonna be okay. What he said to me when he was 8, it hit me in my chest. And I turned around and I screamed across the street and said, Lamar, how old are you? He was like, I'm 16. And I remember thinking, like, I might have 2 more years. I would say 3 months later, Lamar was gunned down in broad daylight in front of his family.
Breaking news right now in North Nashville. Officers investigating a shooting.
He fired his gun several times. Those shots would prove to be fatal.
Our community has been harmed by everyone, right? Whether it is local officials, whether it is schools, whether it's our own neighbors, right? Because violence happens inside of networks.
The school-to-prison pipeline, simply put, is a set of policies and practices that unjustly funnel children into the justice system. And primarily, Black and brown children, children with disabilities, children from the LGBTQ community are most easily funneled into the justice system from the schools. We don't talk about the fact that it is not only police brutality that is violent. School pushout is violent. Being attacked by gentrifiers is violent. All of these things are violent. All of these things threaten the lives of these children.
We really gonna have to struggle with the way these systems are functioning. It's allowing this harm, this poverty, this violence to just keep cycling over and over again. And it's at a point where we gotta put our foot down and we have to stop it. And I refuse to sit back and allow any of my friends, my young people, my family to experience any type of death, whether that is a physical, emotional, economic, job, houseless. I refuse. So if I'm talking to a community member who is willing to accept that, my next question is why is Black death so acceptable to you?
I stood at Lamar's funeral, I spoke, and I said, I'm gonna dedicate my life to this work. I am going to dedicate my life to these children. And while I can't bring Lamar back, I have children here who still need me.
Hey, y'all. Did they tell y'all those cameras gonna be in here?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I sure forgot.
Gideons Army is really special in that we do a lot of grassroots work. Like, we're a grassroots organization, which means that we are led by the people who are impacted by the issues that we focus on.
We're all about presenting solutions, whether it's a violence interruption, where if you're having a dispute with a neighbor or you know about something and you don't want to call the police because you don't want somebody being hurt. You can call a credible messenger, somebody from your neighborhood that you know, and they'll show up and just like run it down with you, center the harm. What happened? What can we do to make this better? What type of support do you need from me? And how can we avoid this from happening again?
Name one. Go through here, we're gonna duck nothing. Hey, what's up? Damn, y'all running? Fuck y'all think we is? We ain't no motherfucking police. Once upon a time, you couldn't come over here without permission. I don't care who you was. You could not be in these projects without permission. You know, now, you know, we done grew up and we understand what it is to love on ourselves first and foremost, and to extend that love to whoever want the love. So we building a bridge right now and trying to be the example of change within Nashville, Tennessee.
If you trying to save people out of the trenches, you got to go into the trenches. So we ain't standing in church houses, we ain't your preachers, we ain't your local, you know what I'm saying, pushers, none of that. What we doing is coming to meet you where you at and providing you the resources to pull you out of that hell that you in.
We're showing up to areas unarmed. We are coming to just talk peace, and people are accepting, and we're actually preventing things from happening, which law enforcement cannot do.
It's different hearing from someone who's been in the streets, who's lived the life, who has the life experience that these children have, but they've also been able to turn their lives around. So the violence interrupters speak from a place of experience, but with hope.
Hey, let's go, y'all. Hey, we're gonna try to get as much as we can to you. We're gonna start just giving you stuff. Listen, we gotta keep it moving. Everybody needs something.
We filling their stuff up right now. We trying to get it together.
And those are fresh food vouchers. You good? My brother.
I think it's people like Gideons Army, people that are showing that we care. We want to show the world that this community is not what your perception of them is. This community is more than that. This community can and will be more than that, whether or not you give us a chance.
I see children who feel supported, who feel loved, who are in a healthy community where we've built like these social determinants of health around education and physical health and mental health. I see adults who are fulfilled, who are living their own truths.
When you save a building and reuse it, it remains a sense of belonging for the neighbors and the people that were familiar with the building when it was being used at a more positive time in the neighborhood. I think there's a quote, "Nothing that's good and worthwhile can ever be fully achieved within our lifetimes." So we kind of have to be saved by hope.
We are living in a time of revolutionary potential. I'm greatly humbled by whatever force allowed me to come of age during this time, because we're either gonna solve it or we're gonna solve it. There's no other way to go from here.
We will not stop until this pipeline is dismantled. We will not quit on our children. The love of these children, it makes me invincible. They will have to destroy my body, and even then this work will continue, because these children will rise up and these communities will rise up and this work will continue. You can kill the revolutionary, but you will never kill the revolution. The needle will always push towards the direction of justice.
We can't spin. We can't spin. Just how been. We can win. Bring a friend. If you won't, know you might be in love. We probably gon' meet again. Hey, know if it's really about love, you know we gon' meet again. We can't spin. Just how been. We can win. Bring a friend. If you won't, know you might be in love. We probably gon' meet again. Hey, know if it's really about love, you know we gon' meet again.